Going to continue a project I started about a week ago, or actually Tuesday, and I am working on an antique washstand, and I've put 3 colors on this piece already, and I'll go through them real quick. And starting at the top is buttercream, sandbar, and burlap, and I just did a dry brush, really quick technique on it. Nothing fancy, literally just one color after another, no blending. In fact, if I bring you in close and I'll do that, you can even still see the brush stroke still. So I purposely did it rough. There's no technical blending or anything crazy happening there. Let them know that we're doing some cool stuff, and I'll do my best to walk you through my steps that I'm going to do tonight to add a little bit of wash depth and probably continue some of our shading technique that I did last week. But let's start out with the wash, trying to achieve the idea of just adding some more age to this piece. And I like the look, but I'd like to go a little bit further. So I've tagged this somewhat of an intermediate technique just because I've done so much to it. And I've done some other pieces in the past where the washing just adds a little bit of age and character, some more depth, if you will. I've taped off the top because I am going to stain that later on. I haven't determined which technique I'm going to use, but I may cover that in another video. So what I'm going to use is French linen. I wanted to use a gray tone over everything. And I like how the French linen is a warm palette or warm tone gray. And that's going to play really nicely for what I'm trying to accomplish. As I find it, I'm going to take a little container and I'm going to put some water in it and some paint. I'm not really going to measure. I'm just going to kind of wing this because I just need a watery mix. So let me just grab out of my French linen, I'm just going to grab some paint. And I'm just going to scrape it in there. And then I'm going to use probably I'm just going to take a bucket. I have my bucket of water here. I usually have that during my live, so I don't have to go to my sink. And I'm just going to put in a little water. And now I'm just going to mix it together, okay? All you're trying to do is get that paint watery. And you want to mix enough for your whole piece. And I can't really guarantee you how much that is. You would need to guesstimate it. I would do more than enough, just because if you run out halfway and you got to remix, the next mix might be too what do you call it? Too thick. So this is really just it is for the most part I'm going to do a little bit more water. It's a guess. It's slow to the game, but I'm going to take the mini because I like how it's going to give me a large surface. I'm going to wet my brush just so that it doesn't consume too much of my wash. Now, here's the deal. When I do a wash, usually I have to decide, do I want to remove any of the wash? Do I want to see streaks with the wash? Or a little bit of both? Tonight what I like to do is I'll take a slightly wet rag, and I'm going to use it to remove, kind of tap and remove. I'm adding texture when I do that. It just really adds a little bit of character. So you can see how the French linen is darkening the top color and making it's just really it's bringing out the details. And one of the reasons I wanted to do the wash is because this has so many crevices to it that I wanted something to go into all the cracks. I want the dents and the dings. Now once I get down below, the French linen is not having much of an effect. It might pop a little bit more when it dries, but that's okay. We're going to do a little shading if we have time. In fact, I think the French linen is about the same value as burlap. I'm seeing that right now. So this is not doing too much to the lower section, and that's okay. I really wanted to tone down the buttercream. You can do whatever colors you want. You can do as many washes as you want. This is the fun part of creating. So we still have some mix left, and here's where you would want to come back and decide, okay, do I want to dab some of this, or do I like how the texture is? I'm going to do just a little bit of dabbing. The next thing that you can practice with on your own piece is you can come back once you dab and you can actually mist it, and that'll soften any edges you might have. I would just tone it back. So compare the front, really bright, and the side has a little bit more of a softer tone. And that's the magic of layering washes. So let's keep going to the front. So here's all the detail I'm talking about. Look at all these great grooves. I want those to be, I want those to come out a little bit, and we're gonna do some more shading to that to accentuate it even more. Right now I'm just toning the piece down. This is a great way to tone a piece down. It also can act as a harmonizer, meaning like if I were painting with vintage duck egg, not that I would necessarily, but if I put vintage duck egg over this whole piece, it would tie all the colors together a little bit more. So that's another reason you might try this. And I've done some pieces where I've done 2 or 3 colors of washes. So you can do this and come back with another color. You can wash over it, or you can, every layer you can play with could be different, meaning one layer you go a little thicker, another layer you don't wipe it off, and one you do. So there's so many options, okay? And I'm just trying to get all of the areas with this color, and my wash mix so far is doing great. You can go over your mix multiple times. Now, just like we did on the other side, I'm just gonna dab in a few places just to kind of add a little bit of character. Because it's still wet, those lines and such will dissipate and soften. So, right now, I'm liking the look of that. But the biggest thing I was going for is just to tone it down and give it a little bit more of a, I'm trying not to say a dirt look, because I don't want it to be dirt looking. I just want it to have a little bit more age. Okay? And I'm just toning the piece down, bringing out some of the details, and lightly washing back. And I haven't, since this is an artistic situation, meaning you're being creative, I haven't determined if I'm done with just this one color. I might find, you know what, I need a little bit more. That's fine. Now I don't, what I can do, we'll see how it goes, is I can let this dry and start shading. And it looks kind of scary, but a little mist, if you need it, will soften all those edges up. So here on the front, I did that effect, and it's a little bristle or something right there. It's looking great. Let's come back to the beginning. So I did some up here, and it's soft, and it's got a little bit of texture to it. So I would call that goal of mine of toning it down and adding depth successful. It's a little hard, I will say, on live and with the lights and the cameras and all that for the true color to come out. So you may not be able to see it as well, but it's working, okay? At this point, what I need it to do is to dry if I'm going to do any more shading. What I want to do is, the goal here is to get this piece to feel a little bit more like it's dirt. I've been saying dirty, you know, more aged. I have done in the past. I'm just trying to really encourage you all to experiment, try depth, try some different techniques. If you want to take your chalk paint work to the next level, oftentimes that's going to happen when you do different techniques with the paint and not just 2 coats of buttercream and you're done. Not that that's bad, but again, if you want to try custom, unique work, you need to get more experimental. Let's put this in the middle. I'm using the 1-inch brush, Dixie Belle's 1-inch. I think it's flat small. And I'm just putting this on. You can already see how it's darkening. It should. It looks gray, but it's gonna dry darker. I'm gonna try and get out of the way here a little bit. We'll focus in just right there. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use, this is the French tip. Doesn't really matter. What I wanna do is I just wanna fade that. And I'm using a mister bottle just to keep this wet. Remember, it's gonna feel a little stickier than just using paint. It's got some top coat in it. It wants to start drying and curing pretty quick, so that's why I'm using the water, just to give me my final softer edge. This is gonna dry fairly dark quickly. Now I'm gonna put my brush in the Dixie dirt, and I'm gonna come into the corners. Remember, it's like a powder, so when you mix it with your glaze, it's gonna help the dirt bind and stick to your piece. At this point, you should be expecting that the dirt is gonna make it look dirty, thus the name. But it's a cool, aged look. And I'm feathering it out because that's just the look I want. You could just dab it in there and stop. But I like a little bit more of a natural, softer feel. And I'm looking for my rag because you're gonna get a little messy. I'm just gonna slightly lift any that I may have gotten out of the frame area. So here is nothing except for just the glaze, and up here it's glaze with Dixie dirt. So just keep an eye on anything you might need to fix. If you've got some glaze or areas that need to be softened, like down below, I can see that. Back to the Dixie dirt. Just a little craft brush. Depending on the size of your piece, you can determine what size. But what I was trying to get to a while ago is that your paint, because I just put a wash down, it hasn't cured, so anything you're gonna do to it could start lifting up some of that work, so just be careful. Think about working in spans of time, like a couple hours, come back later, let it naturally dry, but for the sake of our cooking show here, we're moving quickly. Okay, so this is really a cool look. It's gonna make this piece look authentically aged and beyond basic. If you like that, this is a good technique. All right, so that's really cool. And just keep an eye on it. What could go wrong, right? And when I say keep an eye on it, I mean, watch how it dries. You might want to see how this panel dries before you go on. But that's so cool. That's looking great. I love that look. And by the way, you don't have to only put it in the crevices. If you feel like, for example, if over time you think that it needs to have a little bit of dirt along the bottom because it's been sitting, in dirty kitchen, maybe put some here. Just use your imagination and decide where you want this. And maybe where you put the glaze, you don't need, I think I'm gonna leave it. You don't need any dirt down here. This is almost simulating what it would look like if they didn't clean very good. But so I just put a little bit of the Grunge glaze down here, and we'll just leave it. I think that'll darken up over time. Time meaning a little bit. And then we'll put some up at the top as well. This is the easy part of this project because it's almost more of a flat canvas. When I get to the front, it's going to be a little bit more adventurous because there's so much detail going on. So I'm just feathering that out right now. And when it dries, it's going to be magical. So keep in mind, think about the steps that I've put on this. I did 3-color dry brush gradient. We did the wash. But it's how the story's being told of this piece, and that's the fun part. I'm using my rag just to touch up a little bit of areas. You should expect some great character to come out when it's all said and done, okay? Let's work down here, and I want to kind of bring out this, whatever I do here. I mean, look at this piece here. You can see how it's got like chew marks or broken marks. It's beat up right here. This thing's probably 100 years old, so I'm just playing that same story with it. So let's go back to our grunge glaze and we're just going to work one section at a time. I don't want to put the grunge glaze everywhere. I just want to put it where I think that if maybe over 100 years, that's where they forgot to clean. So I'm just putting it in here. Think about where would I want to put the Dixie dirt, and that would be a good place to put. If you want, you can put it in the cracks and then just wipe off the top high points, and that'll leave a dark area too. I'm going to put some of this glaze along the bottom like we did on the side. If you don't follow my Facebook or Instagram, please do that. That way you can see this piece done, and it'll see how I'm just using my craft brush. I haven't used my French tip yet to feather. The other brush that you might try is the Dixie, the Belle brush is also a nice one that I like to use. Not to say that you can't use a mini or a round brush to do any of this feathering. I just like the natural edge. That's just a preference you can do. So at this point now, do you see how rough and almost, not crude, but just, it's not, I want it to be softer. I don't want it to be that messy. I just want it to look faded. So that's one thing I like about this brush, is that I can feather that a little bit more. And I'm kind of mixing the glaze and the Dixie dirt together. Have your Mr. Bottle handy in case some areas have gotten a little too dry. You have a little bit of working time, but the Mister helps. Here's where I was talking about taking your rag and maybe just hitting some of the high points and going across. And it just, and you know, to be honest with you, I didn't really have a plan of how exactly this was going to get. I thought about doing chalk paint shading, but this really started speaking to me that the glaze and dirt was going to be the way to go, and so far, so good. I'm using the wet rag to remove or soften any edges. We can come back and take a peek at how things are drying over here. So far, spot on. It's not bad for winging it tonight. So look at that, how well that's vignetting and aging this piece. It doesn't have to be an old piece for you to, to do this on. Let's move up to the top and let's take on maybe this drawer here and see what we can do. My first choice again was probably more of the Van Dyke brown, but since I just made up what I wanted to do, I don't know where to put that. So this is using Grunge, not because it's the best fit, but it's doing a good job. It's amazing how, I don't know if you can see this, but see how it's kind of gray? But as soon as I put it on that piece, it feels brown. Dixie Belle, I'm not sure how you're doing that magic, but it's magic. Can this work with Voodoo Gel Stain? Probably. I do find that the Dixie dirt sticks better with the glaze. I guess you could think of it like donut glaze, right? Sticky yumminess. I wouldn't eat this glaze, don't. Asterisk on this video. Aaron does not endorse licking Dixie Belle's glaze. Only donut glaze. I would love for y'all to bookmark the link that Dixie Belle posted. When you plan to go order, using that link helps me greatly. And so look how much character this top drawer and this one has. They were pretty much about the same color when I started, so the difference is just the glaze and the dirt. I've been excited about seeing how one of these will work. This is a really great place for shading. And so let's do one of these. Maybe a slightly smaller brush would help. Oh, and by the way, on my Bowtie Treasures Facebook page, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, I go live Friday nights late, about 3 Friday nights ago. I did a lot of prep on this piece, and if you want to see how I had to repair some of the elements, check out the videos on my Facebook page, and you'll see how I had to re-glue part of the back. I tightened up the drawers, just things you might have to do when you buy antique old furniture. So that was kind of a nice video, so check that out. I don't know the exact date, but I did a live prepping this piece. So over here, you know, you might have a rhyme or reason to what you're doing, where you're putting the dirt. I try not to get over complicated with it, meaning keep it random sometimes. When I missed it, if you go over it with a brush and it doesn't move, giving it a quick mist will help that. But I don't want this piece to look perfect. So if the two door panels don't quite match up, I will not be stressing over it. So I'm just gonna wipe out because I don't want the glaze and the dirt above this section. But look at the difference on those two sections. Really cool. I'll show you some interesting things about this piece. On the back of this one, it has a built-in knob. That's one reason why the knob's still here, because the dowel is, I can't unscrew this, so I left that on. And then in the back, it has a little bit of, it has a hook to go in the back of the door. So that's, when I work on it, you can hear it knocking. It's been hooked. So that's really cool about this piece, that it's like that. So hopefully you're getting a vision of what we're doing as far as adding the age to this. There's so many ways to do it. This is just one of those ways, and hopefully that's communicating, and I'm doing a good job of piquing your interest with maybe some different supplies or different products that Dixie Belle offers. Something you're probably not going to see demonstrated a lot, but I love the look. And right now this is a little wet, but it's okay. It's only wet with the wash that we did earlier, so it's not. And notice on this one, I'm going to go back and do a little bit of the vignetting with the brush before I do the glaze or the dirt, just because it started to dry on me a little too fast. I'm going to do the dirt now. If you go to my website also, you will be able to see my links there. But I'll go. So looking good. All right. So let's step back a little bit and get a further back vision. So this has been done down below up here. I haven't done this section, and let's go back and look at the first panel that we did together. And you can see how that's drying so lovely. And down here I only did glaze, so it has a little bit, you can see just about right there. And so overall I think this is going to be a pretty cool piece. And it's going to set it apart from just being one color. And it'll look, my goal is for it to look like it's looked like this for 100 years, and I think we're headed that direction. So, Laura, that's a great question. If you go to my website, bowtietreasures.com, under the shop link, there's an Amazon link, and I put this table, I talk about this table at the top of that page. So if you want to check that out, it's been a great help to me, and I basically just kind of talk about what I use to make it. I encourage you to get one. If you do a lot of furniture, I like to work on my table, not on the floor, and this allows me to work quickly and efficiently by spinning it around. I think that's it for tonight. I'm going to keep going here, but you get the idea. Just think about how the different products that Dixie Belle offers can help you get your projects looking legit, looking great, and the nice thing is it's very forgiving finish. If it looks dirty and it's not polished, it's great. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to message me on social media or tag me here in the video, and I'll go back again and look through all that. So take care, and thanks Dixie Belle for the opportunity to be live tonight. Have a good night, guys.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.